Hello, my name is Blake Polson, and for my research, I decided to research the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, more specifically the changes and enforcement of the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act over its lifetime. As a brief history, in 1977, the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, otherwise referred to as the FCPA, was signed, and it brought about two major rules. The first rule is you cannot bribe government officials, which came as a shock to a lot of people because most US companies and companies all over the world would commonly bribe government officials so they could guarantee contracts for themselves. The other rule was that it set up accounting practices that all United States companies needed to follow. These included internal controls and audits of financial statements. Over its lifetime, it's also had two amendments. The first one came in 1988, and it brought about the Omnibus Trade and Competitiveness Act of 1988. What that did was that promoted international trade by alleviating and clarifying some parts of the FCPA to make it more understandable, and also helped companies make sure they weren't committing anything illegal while dealing with foreign affairs. Its second one in 1998 brought about the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, which was a worldwide organization that consisted of a group of 35-ish economically strong countries that could compare international trade policies. This was helpful at the time for the entire world because that was about the time that the fall of communism in Russia and the fall of the Berlin Wall in Germany came about. So both Germany and Russia were looking to get into the world trade market. 2010 was the strike of the biggest enforcement. In 2010, the Justice Department Assistant Attorney General declared it to be a new era of FCPA enforcement. The Department of Justice and the Security Exchange Committee decided that they were going to crack down and enforce the FCPA on both companies and individuals more than they had been previously. And in 2010 alone, they had fined companies $1.4 billion and individuals close to $100 million. The next thing I want to talk about were just a couple cases that came about from the FCPA. One of them in 2004 from Hewlett-Packard. This is a case of bad accounting practices on their end. A couple of their subsidiaries had bribed officials in Russia, Poland, and Mexico. They bribed a total of $3 million, and after the whole lawsuit had ended, Kara Brockmeyer said that Hewlett-Packard lacked the internal controls to stop a pattern of illegal payments to win business in Mexico and Eastern Europe. The company's books and records reflected the payments as legitimate commissions and expenses. If they had had the controls that the FCPA had in place, they would have avoided $108 million in legal fees. The next one, just an individual, goes by his name is Johann Bahn, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. He was a freelance real estate agent in New Jersey, and he tried to bribe government officials in the Middle East for a really big deal. The way he was going to do it was he gave the money to one of his accomplices, and he was supposed to take the money over to the Middle East, but his accomplice actually just kept the money for himself and then turned him in, and he was still charged with even though the officials never got the bribe, because it's still illegal to attempt to bribe, and he was fined almost $250,000. In conclusion, I just wanted to say that there have been many changes to the FCPA over the last 40 years that it's been around, but I believe that it's been better for the United States and the world as a whole. Thank you.